of Commerce. I have the honor of moderating the 2023 City of Beaufort Mayoral Forum this evening. The purpose of tonight's forum is to introduce you, the voters, to the candidates that are vying for the one-year term of City of Beaufort Mayor, and the election day is on December 12th. We want the community to have an opportunity to hear the candidates' thoughts on top local issues. Tonight's forum will last approximately 1 hour, and we'll use the same format that we just used for the Tunnel for Oil mayoral election just over a month ago. Each candidate will have 90 seconds to respond to the question asked by one of our panelist members. They'll alternate who goes first with each question. This is not a debate. This is a forum. So candidates are asked not to ask questions of or speak directly to each other. If a candidate is named in a response, they have up to 2 30-second rebuttals. All questions this evening will come from our panel. We encourage citizens to continue learning even after tonight about the candidates as you approach the day to vote. All of the questions that will be asked tonight were set by the panel just a short while ago, right before we walked across the street. No questions were shared in advance with any candidate or any campaign. Tonight's 4 panelists, sitting here on the front row, represent a cross-section of our community. They work together this afternoon with Chamber Board Chairman Grant Summerall to establish the questions. The panelists tonight are Will Baker, and residents with Hope Simon, a commission of the Beaufort Housing Authority, and the council of the Beaufort Commerce. Mayor Harris is the executive director of the Beaufort Chamber of Commerce. She's a board member of the and is a very active member in the Ladies Island Business and Professional Association. And last but not least, Ashley Hawk. She is the Executive Director of the Beaufort Area Hospitality Association. So my job tonight as moderator is just to do one thing, and that is to keep us on time and on track. We're going to start with each candidate to have 2 minutes for an opening statement, and at the conclusion, they'll each have 2 minutes again for their closing remarks. The order for opening statement and closing statement was just determined by a coin toss, if you were lucky enough to see that. We have asked the candidates to keep their responses brief within that 90-second frame so that we can cover more topics. For those of you in the audience, you have a role to play too tonight. We welcome your applause now, so welcome these 2 gentlemen to the stage, Phil Cromer and Mike Sutton. As we go through the questions, please refrain from any commentary or outbursts. We want to keep this professional and moving right along. Thank you both for being here, Mr. Cromer and Mr. Sutton. Mr. Cromer, with the flip of a coin toss, you may start your opening remarks.
Okay. Well, good evening. I want to thank the Chamber for putting this forum on. I also want to thank all of you who turned out this evening. Just a little bit about me. I'm a native of Charleston, South Carolina. I moved to Beaufort in 1980. Shortly after that, I met my future wife, Amelia Amar. As a matter of fact, I asked her to marry me the first day I saw her. We've been happily married for the past 40 years. We have 2 married daughters and 4 grandchildren, and one of my daughters and 3 grandchildren live here in Beaufort. I'm a veteran of the United States Army, went in, enlisted for active service, then I went into the Army Reserves. I finished my service as a lieutenant colonel in the Medical Service Corps. After that, I went to college. I got my degree from undergraduate degree from the University of South Carolina. I also have a joint master's degree from the College of Charleston and the University of South Carolina in public administration. Worked for a short time in the private sector before going to the public sector. I went to work for the Low Country Council of Governments in Port South. After that, I became the town administrator in Ridgeland. Followed that by going to Port Royal to be the town manager there. And then in late 1990, went to work for the Municipal Association of South Carolina, where I was a risk manager and worked with the cities and towns around the state. I retired in January 2014, moved back to Beaufort, offered myself for elective office on the council. I was fortunate to be elected, ran a second term unopposed, and finished that term last year. With recent events that took place with the mayor resigning, I decided to step back in and serve my community. I want to make sure that we ensure that the city government becomes good stewards of what we have, and especially in the unique city. And I want to thank my grandchildren for being here, because I want to make sure that our city is going to be the same for them, that they'll enjoy the same things that we like about this community.
Well, hi, my name is Mike Sutton, and first I'd like to thank the Chamber and the University of South Carolina for hosting this. We weren't sure we were going to actually have enough time to have forums in this short election cycle, but I grew up on Fripp Island in the early days, a time when I remember Beaufort being a two-lane road all the way out to Fripp, and I've seen a lot of change in these number of years. Growing up there and going to local schools, this was actually my first school in Beaufort. I remember acting on this stage as a third grader. I was later taken out to St. Helena. We lived on Fripp, so I attended St. Helena Elementary School and went through and graduated at Beaufort High in 1977. So I've been around for a while. After graduation, at that time in history, there was not a lot of opportunity for people like me. I was one of 7 family members, the youngest son in a family. The education was not a high priority, the cost of education. We didn't have the university here working like it is today, so things would have been far away. So I was not able to attend the universities of my choice at the time. I enlisted in the U.S. Coast Guard. I served 21 years, and I retired as a Chief Petty Officer with the Coast Guard. And my major response and training led me down to both polar regions, environmental response work. I was a chemical response chief for the Fort Dix, New Jersey, for a rapid response team handling shipping emergencies around the country. I was in the Gulf oil spill, was the last opportunity I had to do work with the Coast Guard, but the reality is they gave me an education I never would have gotten had I not left Beaufort. But upon leaving Beaufort, coming back to Beaufort, I was able to find my wife, Nanette Brown, who we had known each other earlier in life, and both departed and came back to our hometown. After retirement here, I joined the Sheriff's Department and served 2 years in law enforcement, and my primary duties were on St. Helena Island, where I was able to reconnect with family members out there that I'd known through school. I later became involved on the Civic Board with the Historic Review Board, which led me to a city council seat, and I believe in term limits. I served a total of 2 terms for 8 years. When I got off the council, I set in motion some work that I had been doing in passion on restoring historic houses, and developed a company, Sutton Construction, which you see my trucks around town. We primarily focus on historic preservation work. We're currently at Penn Center restoring those buildings. My whole candidacy is really based on brick and mortar mayor type, infrastructure, strong businesses, focus on tourism, how it relates to neighborhoods and what the impact is, housing and all types of housing, whether it's affordable or not, but that's a big topic. And one that's close to my heart is mental health issues that we face that have the outcome being things like the homelessness in the park and the panhandling. Those are issues we haven't addressed. And of course, because I work in preservation, that's always a top topic for me, but I don't think that's the top topic for our city right now. Thank you.
Gentlemen, this is a one-year term as mayor. what would your top 3 priorities be for the next year?
Connie, can you please repeat that?
My apologies. Okay. This is a 1-year term as mayor. What would your top 3 priorities be over the next year?
Okay, I'll go first. My number one priority is focusing on the infrastructure around us. We have $27 million on the table right now to be spent in the next 2 years on major projects in the city, things that have taken a long time to get to this point. So infrastructure, focusing on that's something can be done in a year period to get us started and get those projects completed. The next one is tourism is an issue that we speak about, but we don't often get together as a community. But the pressures related to the tourism in different neighborhoods is different across the city. I think it's time that we sit down and talk about, and then we can do this in the next 11 months, about what is the impact of us marketing the tourism in the downtown area, and how's that impacting the new families moving here? Because I've seen as demographics change, as people move in, their ideals of quality of life in their neighborhood is different than the ones of the folks who are there before them. So we need to hear the new voices and try to figure out what's going on with the tourism. Those are the first topics that I would address.
Thank you, Mr. Sutton. Mr. Cromer?
Excuse me, mine would also be to complete the stormwater projects that we've got currently underway, so we can build the city's resiliency. Also working with council to make sure we implement our strategic goals that we have set for the 2023, 2024, 25 years. And working to try to streamline the process in terms of permitting processes, to streamline and make it a little more predictable for businesses that want to open it up. And those would be probably my top 3.
Thank you. We'll have question 2 now, and Mr. Cromer, you will answer first, and we'll alternate with each question.
There's been much conversation about the Reimagine Rebo Road project, with many citizens expressing what they don't like about the plans. What elements of the plans do you like, if any? And if elected, how would you ensure the citizen feedback is incorporated?
The last part, I'm sorry.
And if you were elected, how would you ensure that the citizen feedback is incorporated?
Well, first of all, the things I like about the Rebo Road project, there are not many, but one would be that we put the power lines underground, that we could widen sidewalks. And I think something has to be done where McTeal Bridge meets the Rebo Road area, but that's in Beaufort Mayoral. I would also try to get at least get the planners, and I guess it's the Jared Fralix with the county. He's already had a session where residents have come out in opposition to everything. Let's sit down and see if they can't come back with some better plan for Rebo Road without two-laning it and creating a traffic and a public safety issue.
Okay, so the Reimagine, we just started off wrong, folks. It's the number one topic that I'm knocking on doors. Number one topic and concern in the city was imaginary, because this is a project that had no funding. It wasn't even a starter from the start. It was a conversation, but it alarmed us as a community. The city of Beaufort is focused on Ribault Road for many years. We went from 2 lanes to 4 lanes. We talked about 1 laning it year after year, and that's always not been practical. We talked about roundabouts. We had a roundabout plan for intersection of Highway 21 and Ribault Road, and that was turned down because it was not practical. So what my feelings on the Reimagine is, no one knew the institutional history about what we were trying to do here. All we'd asked for on Ribault Road is, like Phil says, burying the power lines. It's been number one topic. Stop cutting down the trees. Secondary, we need to widen the sidewalks and connect the paths that we've created to our inner city circles.
The Woods Memorial Bridge recently needed several repairs and is one of only 2 points of access for anyone on the sea islands. With the growth of Beaufort, is it time to consider a 3rd bridge, or do you have another solution?
Mr. Sutton, you want to say first?
Okay, the Woods Bridge is the time bomb waiting to happen, folks. It's historic, and we can appreciate that. I champion that, and Stephen Murray got it to happen with a lot of help from a lot of people. But that's not going to keep that bridge there. It's a 2-lane bridge to a 2-lane road to the middle of our historic district. The growth on Ladies Island it surpassed the ability of that bridge and the McTier Bridge to service the region. There's major changes. First of all, there's already been a study to do a bypass, and it would go out behind the air station. That study had 5 separate bridges connected to it with over $300 million worth of cost, and an environmental impact study was done that proved that most of that shouldn't be done probably. But the one piece that should be or could be done would be the connector from Brickyard Point behind the air station. Here's the problem I have with it. It reduces the traffic on the Woods Bridge by only 5,000 daily trips. It's not a big impact for what we see now on the bridge to do that massive project, which is excess of $111 million. This was 8 years ago or 9 years ago. So yes, we have to figure out how to get people off Ladies Island and St. Helens Island, and we're going to have to bring that document back up and restudy it and find out what is possible. But more than that, we really need to look at why do we keep building more and more and more, and we thinking that roads and bridges are going to get us out of it. That is not the answer. So yes, a third bypass needs to be studied, and that's something I would look at. It's a regional issue. The 14,000 citizens of our city are not going to pay $100 million for a bridge. It's going to have to take a lot more people sharing in the cost.
Well, I supported when I was on council the nomination of that bridge to be on the National Register. I believe that bridge is iconic to Beaufort. It's something that means a lot to everybody in the community. It's much like the Brooklyn Bridge is to New York City and the London Bridge is to London. And I guess by the state, they've already said it's okay right now. As Mike pointed out, it probably has a short life on it, but I'm sure the state, since it's on the National Register, will do everything they can to keep it maintained. They're going to spend $500,000 to fix the gates, which caused some of the problem on traffic backups and closing the bridge about a month or so ago. But the growth on Ladies Island and the potential growth on St. Helens Island is what the problem is. It was poor planning, whatever, on Ladies Island that allowed all this development to take place with planning unit developments and what's going on there now. We have over 20,000 people on the island trying to get through into town on the Woods Bridge or across the McTier Bridge. We have to look at a third bridge probably at some point if it keeps growing at the rate it's growing. Unfortunately, I think the last study I saw was they were going to try to do it from Brickyard Point over to the air station or north of the air station. That would be mainly for evacuation purposes or people who work at the air station, but it won't solve the problem when people want to come downtown. It'll have to be studied again, see if there's another alternative route, but at the present right now, I hope we can maintain it and keep our bridge.
With this past weekend's Night on the Town, parking was a major issue, like with so many festivals. How would you lead an effort to solve our parking issue?
Well, you're right. I think we have parking's a challenge most of the time, but especially when these big events occur, it's a huge problem. And I think the best way to try to solve that is maybe figure out a way of doing a park and ride. And if we had a trolley system, it would be nice to be able to shuttle people down to the events and back. Right now, you've got to find out where those places would be. And we don't have a trolley system yet, but it's something that should be studied.
Well, if you're local, you know how to find a place to park downtown, but it's probably on somebody else's private property. And that's the problem. The problem is that a lot of the areas that we park on today are not properties that we will be able to park on forever. There's 150 some odd spots in the marina parking lot. Every time we have a festival, we have to move them out. We've done parking study after parking study, and the end result has always been we need additional parking. The city set out in that direction years ago, bought some land, the only place available for future parking. Didn't make a lot of sense then. It might now as we continue to infill our downtown. But the parking garage is not a new issue. The issue is that it's a parking garage. But unfortunately, the people just don't really want to see that happen, but we need it. And the best place to put a parking garage is on a parking lot. Thank you.
As mayor, what can the city do to strengthen the relationship with and support of the military bases and service member families in our region?
Well, being a retired military man, I think the issue here is probably not an issue. I think we have a strong relationship with our military. I believe that if we be an inclusive city and making sure that the military families are supported, and that's part of some of the housing issues we're faced with. But Beaufort's a unique opportunity for a military person, whether they're transiting here or getting discharged from the military. There's some opportunities for them here, and we're trying to increase those opportunities. But I don't think that we have an adversary position with our military members. I think there's a really strong connection between Paris Island, the air station, and the city of Beaufort. And there's a lot of military people in this room probably who were here for military training and came back to Beaufort. And I know I'm pretty much one of them. I didn't graduate out of schools here, but being a military man, this is the place to live.
I think we already have a strong relationship with the military here, through the MEAC and everything else, and I believe the community supports the military. They know that, and I think people who retire here from the military enjoy it because of the unique community that we have and the support they receive.
Our visitor economy is strong and supports local businesses. On average, 16% of individuals in Beaufort are visitors on a daily basis. What is your position on supporting the hospitality and tourism industry?
I wholeheartedly support it. It's one of the pillars of our community in terms of economic development, and it's along with the military, but tourism is vitally important. We need to continue to support it. We have to be careful, though, because like Charleston, they're getting to be overrun with the numbers of people. So we need to be concerned about that, because but it is. We do support it. I support it, and as mayor, we do everything I could to continue to support it.
Well, I think the question is related to the hospitality industry, but we're a service community right now. I mean, we have a lot of retirees moving into the area, and we're a very small city. I think we have to really understand what we are and not try to vision something we're not. And if you put yourself in those shoes, you can understand that we have to support the service industry employees. And housing is one of the biggest problems with it, but also, higher paid wages for some of these folks and better services. Having a new hotel downtown, having vibrancy, having those restaurants filled every day is an opportunity to provide better wages for service industry folks. But it's not just restaurant people or service community. We have painters and landscapers and all the other folks who have to come into our city and work. But we need to be supportive of those small businesses, the restaurants, the hotels, those folks. We need to be supportive of those and make sure that we don't treat them as a second-class citizen.
USCB and TCL are an integral part of our community and a generator for our workforce. How would you lead the city to support the missions of those institutions?
Well, I first of all would like TCL to ramp up its service industry side on industrial arts. As a contractor with 11 employees, I could double my workforce tomorrow, but I can't get qualified workers. TCL is very important to us as a region, in our region. The nursing program is highly successful. We have a tremendous gap in workforce for the hospitals in the medical industry, but we have even a greater shortage in employees working on things like electrical, plumbing, mechanical, heat and air. Those are things that are dying on the vine. So we need to support TCL even more and encourage them to keep focused on those industrial arts programs and not just make it about technology. There's a lot of youth out there that'll never be in cybersecurity, but they might be your plumber, come to your door, and they can make just as much money doing that. So we're going to have to work. We need TCL badly. We need them at the table.
We do need to support the TCL and also do through the industrial arts, but also through technology. And we're doing that now with the South Coast Cyber Center. It's going to generate some individuals who can make a good living. I think they start out at 5-figure incomes, 70,000 and plus. We need to continue to support them, and especially in the industrial arts, because, as Mike said, there are a lot of jobs that could be earn somebody a good living that is going by the wayside.
How would you assess the city's crime rate, and what are some solutions you would propose to make it better?
Well, unfortunately, we get, when they do these reports, a lot of them consider the whole area of Beaufort. So it looks like the city of Beaufort's crime rate is very high. As a matter of fact, the last study I saw said between 2012 and 2022, I believe that there was a decline in the number of crime in Beaufort. But we need to staff up. I'd like to see more police officers on the street. As a matter of fact, I'd like to see boots on the ground downtown and in the park. We also like to see more traffic enforcement, on our roads, because Rebo Road and Battery Creek, and even downtown, people are exceeding the speed limit, but we need to step that up. I'd like to see cameras as well in high crime areas, and even more cameras downtown, and also lighting downtown. There's several dark streets that are not safe for people to be walking in the evening, and I think the lighting would help out a lot.
Look, the crime issue, the word Beaufort, every news outlet says murder in Beaufort, some other issue in Beaufort. The reality is a lot of those crimes don't happen in our Beaufort, but they are in the regional Beaufort sense, right? But when I was a deputy riding the islands out there, a lot of interdiction came from traffic interactions. We're seeing degradation of moral character in our community simply because we're not enforcing the very basic rules of law. When you speed through a stop sign or a stoplight and there's no police officer to give a consequence, that slowly turns into an out-of-control community. And people drive through our streets feeling like there's no police here. We need consistent policing, and we need to support our police by increasing the manpower, giving them the tools, but more importantly, as a community, they work for us. We need to give them the support of doing their job. When you get pulled over because you're speeding, we need to make sure that they understand that they're doing their job and we need them, rather than shunning them away and telling them, that, oh, don't go to Beaufort because you'll get a ticket. But I think if you increase your basic law enforcement, you will stop some of this other types of crime. I don't know how many times we pull weapons out of cars on a simple traffic stop, pull drugs out of cars and arrested people, bad guys, simply by a traffic violation. So I think we can stop some of the stuff you see in the newspaper, but we're going to have to do a little bit differently as a community, and we can do it. I know we can do it. Thank you.
Homelessness challenges cities throughout the nation, and Beaufort is no different. As mayor, how would you go about addressing the issue or supporting efforts to address the growing issue of homelessness?
Look, homelessness is a symptom. It's a symptom of something much greater, of something that our society does not want to deal with, and that's mental illness. It transcends everything that we think is correct about our community. The problem is you don't go down there as a community and help. I mean, if you're not helping the people and they don't want your help, what's the answer? You can't arrest them and fix the problem. The afflictions and the addictions of these folks are beyond what a mayor can do and what a council can do, and almost beyond what a community can do. But if we stand up as a community and work with our mental health folks and develop some plans, and let's don't follow the West Coast or the North Coast. Let's do our own type of intervention. Because if you follow the federal rules and laws right now, you might as well not do anything down there. You simply just have to leave them alone. And that's not the answer. I would like us to own our park and our streets and take care of the people, but I don't want it to be the other way around, where I can't go down there and enjoy the park after a dinner downtown. I want it to know that there is a system in place to take care of these folks, that they have a way to get intervention. But we can't have the homelessness camped out in our parks and on our streets, and we just can't tolerate it, and we can't follow the ways that other folks in other parts of the world have done it, because it hasn't been working. We need to find our own solution. And if I'm elected, that's one of the things I hope to do is bring and I've been down this road before, bring all the mental health folks together, get a citizen blue ribbon panel together, and let's have a deep discussion about what it takes to intervene at a level we can actually cause some good. Thank you.
Mental illness is a problem, also drug addiction with the homeless. You have to bring in those agencies to try to work with them, but we need to do this on a regional basis or at least a county-wide basis because a lot of times they're not going to want to receive any help. We have to work with those agencies to see if we can get them help, go to them rather than have them come to us. A lot of times they don't want to go to a shelter, but we need to have some place for them to go, especially when it's very cold. But we have to reach out to them to make a difference, and that's what we would do. I guess as mayor, I would work with all the mental health and drug addiction people in the county to try to come up with a system to help these people and where we go out and actually do outreach.
If elected, how important are regional relationships, and what is your commitment to representing the city of Beaufort outside of jurisdictional lines?
Can you repeat that again, Connie?
If elected, how important are regional relationships, and what is your commitment to representing the city of Beaufort outside of jurisdictional lines?
Well, regional cooperation is absolutely important. We've got to be able to do that. But too many of the problems that we're having to deal with, we can't do with a small city of 14,000 people. And all these issues kind of transcend jurisdictional lines, so we need to work together. As mayor, I would be working with the area intergovernmental, the other governmental agencies and trying to get solutions to our problems. But that's how I'd approach it.
Look, we are one community. We call ourselves Beaufort. The island, we're in the middle of the hourglass. But all those people coming through here, most of them are not people who live in the 14,000 citizenry zone or the 5,000 single-family homes. These are people, your neighbors. The irony is that we're a municipality and we're locked into this idea that we have 5 council members, one of them's a mayor, and that only things impacts us are things in our footprint. And that's not true. We have to be at the table. We have to force ourselves to be at the table. But it's a two-way street. We need the county, town of Port Royal, Bluffton and Hilton Head to all work together with us, including Jasper County, to solve some of the issues. We're talking about affordable housing. They're not likely to be in our backyard, but they may be in our region. We're talking about mental health issues. Those things may be serviced from the greater community. It's not going to happen if we think we're responsible for it. It's a regional issue. Any mayor gets elected, any time in history, must work with the other councils across the board to help solve these issues. And that has to happen. You can't do it by yourself. Thank you.
In the city's organizational chart, citizens are listed at the top. What will you do to engage citizens while maintaining civility?
Start over again. I didn't get to the beginning of that.
In the city's organizational chart, citizens are listed at the top as the #1 priority. What will you do to engage citizens while maintaining civility?
Look, it's important to note that we are your government, that if you elect somebody to office, they represent you, but you equally have a responsibility, and that is to communicate with those folks. If you don't hear from a council member for a while, there's got to be a question why. I've knocked on several thousand doors on this campaign, and I've heard a lot of interesting things. But I've also understood that we can have a council meeting and have 3 people show up, and we can do all the Zoom meetings and have 1 or 2 people show up, but we don't seem to reach out and hear the people. It may be that we have to buy new shoes and start knocking on doors and having council conversations at your front door. That might be the only way that we can communicate and get those information out. We can't keep doing it in damage control mode. And what I mean by that is, it's like the hands on the clock. Every hour there's some other topic we're dealing with and we're forgetting about the past ones. The only way we're going to have to work together better as a community, and how to do it as mayor is just encourage our fellow council members and ourselves to be as open as we can possibly be, and try to encourage our public to come and participate in the process. And if you can't get there in person, we're going to have to come to you. I've often thought about why do we have to have a big city hall and sit at a dais and talk to the people? This would be a much better venue if I could get you to come into the room. But just getting you here is a tough part. So if you're paying attention and you want to participate, the doors are wide open. The doors are never locked at City Hall during council meetings. But I think the elected folks are going to have to do our job too.
Well, could you repeat that one more time?
In the city's organizational chart, citizens are listed at the top. What will you do to engage citizens while maintaining civility?
Well, as mayor, you're representing all the people, all the citizens of the community, so you need to be out there where they can see your face, where they can talk to you. I'll be a good listener as mayor. We've done a pretty good job, I think, in the city of being transparent about things. We've communicated. They've just recently put out a new newsletter to try to engage and get people to come to our meetings. Usually it's one big issue that brings all the people out. So you have to really, again, you have to do this outreach. You have to keep going and try to get them to get involved. And while I was on the campaign, listening to people, talking to them, saying what's on your mind, that's one way of finding out what's on the ground. The other way is, we try to do this through Facebook. We have all of our meetings, streamed so that people can participate and call in and ask questions. I guess that's about it.
With the city's increasing budget year over year, what approach to fiscal responsibility do you bring to the table?
Well, we have to be financially sustainable, period, fiscally sustainable. And that means we've got to live within our budget. We have to know what are the priorities. Let's focus on those priorities and see if we can fund them. We may not be able to do it right away. It may have to be done in phases, but that's what we would do. We also need to look at how are we delivering our services? Are we doing this economically? Are we doing it efficiently, effectively? We also may need to look regionally and say, are there opportunities for us to share in services or to consolidate services as a way of saving money in the long run?
Look, Beaufort's budget has increased in the last 9 years, $40 million. It didn't do that by accident. That was a long-range plan. Back in 2006 and 7, when I came on council, we didn't have a capital plan or a long-range plan at all. We didn't even understand our budget. So back then, the council of that era set in motion the plans to have a long-range capital plan and some idea of what they needed in years in the future. Well, that's what's come to be now, and that's why we're spending $40 million more in the last 9 years in the city. But that's on the backbone of business growth and not necessarily residential growth. We need a strong business community to support you who live here if you don't want to be taxed out of your houses. The 6% property and the 10.5% properties from furnishing goods inside buildings, those we're paying, they're over $6 million now. That surpasses just about your 4% real estate tax, real tax. Business is important, but the only way you can balance a budget and keep a budget intact is have a strong business economy, diversify the business, make sure you don't overspend and spend things frivolously. We didn't have a city hall or a police department building for a 300-year-old city back in 2007. Think about that a minute. It took some bold moves by a council who was constantly told, never raise your taxes, to put some infrastructure in place to make the city have a future. And so we're going to have to continue to do that. Not one person has complained about taxes on my door knock. Now, that's interesting to me. 10 years ago, that had been just the opposite. People are willing to spend money if it's for the right thing and they think they're getting something for it. We have probably one of the best budgets I've ever seen in a municipality, in a city right now. Very transparent. You can go online and find it. You can go ask for a hard copy downtown. It's very easy to understand what we're doing for the city. Now, I'm running out of time, sorry.
Thank you. Next question?
The city has recently been named in various lawsuits. Moving forward, what do you think you can do to curb these wasteful expenditures?
Is that me? Look, everybody loves a lawyer. I'm not one. I've been accused of being a sea lawyer before, but lawsuits only make money for certain people, and they take money out of your pockets. We need to solve some of these lawsuits. I mean, we've had things in the books forever and ever. We have lawsuits with the fire districts providing services, all for the same people. It's all our own tax dollars. But we need to get some folks in a room and pull it away from the attorneys probably and sit down at the table and try to figure out how we can solve these problems and not let them be lawsuits. All we're doing is throwing away your money. It's ridiculous. You know, we've created a society where if you don't like the answer, you can sue and get another answer. That's not how it's supposed to be. And we need to solve that somehow. And we can. We can, but we have to work together to do it. Lawsuits should not just happen out of thin air like they've been popping up lately. It's ridiculous. The city can do better. Beaufort, South Carolina can do better than that. Thank you.
I think it takes positive engagement, you know, going out there and finding out and trying to identify those problems before they become serious problems, sitting down at the table, talking with the people, try to work out, see if we can come to a resolution before these things head to court is the main thing. And I think we can do that. It's not hard if you recognize there's an issue going on. If you've got your ear to the ground, you'll notice that ahead of time and should be able to get the parties to the table. But I think, again, it's positive, proactive engagement to try to solve these issues.
Would you be in favor of more annexation into the city? And how would you propose managing the growth that has occurred and will occur through annexation, while also meeting the challenges of service delivery, especially for first responders?
Okay, for annexation, I think we need to close the donut holes. We have several of those out there, and that's an issue for service delivery, and it makes sense to go ahead and close those. As far as annexation, it has to depend on if they want to come into the city, number one. Number two is it cost effective? In other words, if we bring this neighborhood or these houses in, does it pay for itself? Because we have to deliver those services. You want commercial, because commercial returns a better return on investment than residential, but you have to look at it from a cost-benefit standpoint. And so that's how I would approach that.
Look, annexation is not a bad word. It's a natural process for a community to grow and sustain itself. Beaufort City, with 5 council members, can do a whole lot better job, I believe, personally, than the county can in managing growth around us. If a property owner wants to come into the city and they meet the guidelines that we've already set in place, we have the growth plan. If they meet the intent of that and the service we can provide is there, then we should annex them in. And there's a positive side on annexation for folks. And I think of Ladies Island often because there's always been upset that Beaufort has most of the commercial corridor and the residential 20,000 people. But if we didn't put the county at that time would not put that infrastructure out there. The city allowed it to happen. Now you have services over there. Had that not happened, look at the disaster we'd be in. People would be driving over the bridges to get the basic services. So it works for the city, but we have to grow. We have to in order to sustain ourselves. We don't have to grow like the county grew around us, but we have growth plan. We had marks in the sand from 2006 when we had the annexation wars. We made agreements regionally. We sat at the table with all the players, and everybody agreed to a process. The problem is that process has not been followed, and it's not the city's fault. The growth around you, some of that could have been curbed if other players had done their jobs and not allowed it to happen. So don't ever let that annexation ability go away from your city, or you'll be in trouble. You need to have that tool in the toolbox. Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to ask our 15th question, and we have just a few more, and then we'll be closing remarks.
As a real estate professional, I see firsthand the struggle that working families face when trying to find adequate and affordable housing in the city. What policies would you support to increase availability of housing for the workforce population?
Me? Look, this has been a big topic for lots of years, and we see a little bit of traction every now and then. There's a good plan going right now for 32 buildings being built in the city core. But again, Beaufort is tiny. Affordable housing probably not going to be a big imprint in our city corporate limits, but it can be done regionally. One thing government needs to do is get out of the way and let it happen. You know, we've put impact fees that cost a single-family home almost $5,000 more just in the last couple of years. We think that one solution fits all. It doesn't. Every solution is different. We've outlawed mobile homes. We've outlawed modular homes. We don't want anything like this in our backyard. No neighborhood in here is going to tell me they want me to build affordable housing in an empty lot next to them. I guarantee you that. So what do we need to do? We need to figure out what it is we're really asking about. If you want it to happen, it's probably more likely to be a regional issue that has to be done. And I don't think it's taxpayers' dollar needs to be building homes for folks. I think we're going to have to finally let the marketplace do it, but we're going to have to do it in a way that gets out of the way and allows the developers who are willing to do that to seek the funding opportunities to make it happen. I mean, we saw backlash on a small project in the city core. The turnout, I think, is a beautiful project, but somebody didn't like 2 or 3 more houses on a block. I mean, at the end of the day, the measure is, did you succeed in making affordable housing? You want it, right? Everybody I talked to wants it. If we all want it, we got to shake our head and say, yes, we want it. And tell your council to go do it. And if we're blocking the road, we need to get out of the way. Thank you.
Yes, I think affordable housing is a regional issue. We have had some success in doing small projects here in the city. The city donated some land for 2 houses on Mossy Oaks Road. We also did on the corner of North and Rebo Road. There are 2 units there. There are quadplexes that the city gave the land for and worked with the Low Country Housing and Redevelopment Corporation to get those off the ground. And if you look at them, you can't tell because they look like single-family homes. But we are a member or partner of the Regional Housing Trust Fund, which is set up. They just, I think, started up in January of this year. Hopefully, they'll be able to bear some fruit later on. But right now, as Mike mentioned, there are 2 projects that are going on in the city that are low-income housing tax credit projects, and that's a start. But I think one thing we're going to have to realize is that we don't have a whole lot of option in the city. There are some areas of infill that may be appropriate for some type of thing, but we do have 24 recommendations that the city's Affordable Housing Task Force presented to council. It hasn't been acted on yet. It's going to be, I think, come before when they're reviewing the code to see if there's some changes we can make to make it a little bit easier. We also need to be working with the service providers like Beaufort Water and Beaufort Jasper Water and Sewer Authority and Dominion and all that to see if there's some ways we can either waive fees or have credits developed so that we can use those when there is a project in the city. But it's a regional issue, and that's a little bit too big for just the city to handle. But we will be involved.
Beaufort's historic landmark district has several dilapidated structures, and more than 30% are uninhabitable in the northwest quadrant. What tools and solutions would you use to support restoration of these structures, and do you propose more regulations?
Well, to support in there, I think we need to look at, take a look at neighborhood development corporations that can go in and maybe do some assistance there. I understand that the Arts District has a project up right now where they're assisting trying to save some of those homes. The biggest problem there for some of those dilapidated homes is heirs property. And I think there's a project out there now to try to find who the heirs are of this property to see if they can save them. And again, these neighborhood assistance programs that could be started up, supply them with some money. Could also do another project where you get the local, like Lowe's and Graco and all these companies to donate some materials, have volunteers like Habitat and all that to help out for somebody that wants to maintain those homes. Also, it'd be nice for, in the Historic Beaufort Foundation and all that to get involved as well. I think they already are. But we need to try to save those and keep the people who are living in the Northwest Quadrant, who've been there for generations, and let them stay in their homes.
Look, back in 2007 and 8, the Northwest Quadrant was listed as the #1 most blighted neighborhood in the entire county, okay? It offended me that that was the case in a sense that we're a national landmark district and all we hear is about the championing of the district, but we do very little to help the culture and the families living here, the houses. Back in 2008, the city received a $1 million block grant, community development block grant. And I worked with, as a council member, I stopped what I was doing and gathered resources, and we had Habitat for Humanity at the helm. We had churches. We had 600 kids come help paint houses. We put roofs on houses. We repaired 25 houses with that $1 million. We had a $1 million sweat equity match grant for that. That was only 2 blocks of the city. There's more to be done. We know there's more to be done. But it takes money. We need to find a funding source that can do this, but we can't just talk about preservation. We got to actually do preservation, folks. It's unheard of to have a single-family home. We're talking about affordable housing, and it needs a roof sitting in our neighborhood. I mean, how can we're chasing the people out of the houses, and then we tell them they can't find affordable housing? It's ridiculous. Every house in Beaufort by now ought to be fixed up and fully livable. There's no excuse for the houses in our neighborhood to look like they do, so that we become the #1 blighted part of the entire county. That is, for a city as rich as we are in heritage and culture, we can solve this. We can do it as a community. We just need the nonprofits in that arena to step up to the plate and do the most important work, and that's saving our heritage and our culture by helping the families who are less fortunate than the rest of us. We can do it. Thank you.
One final question.
Thank you for those responses to that very important question. The city is undergoing an effort to obtain a $9 million bond to develop Southside Park. While many citizens enjoy parks, do you think this is a wise investment?
Look, Southside Park has a long history. It used to be our sewer treatment plant when we owned the water sewer facility, okay? There was a deal struck back then by one of the earlier mayors. When the facility went away, we get the land back. And then there was a battle, we got the land back, then there was a battle of what to do with it. We spent at least 15 years working with that neighborhood and what that neighborhood park should become. And I don't think we should stray from that. I think that is an incredible opportunity for Beaufort as a whole, but that piece of property actually transcends Port Royal and Beaufort. It's right on the line. It's a community effort park. I think it's a wise investment, any chance we can, to A, preserve the open space that we have, don't let it get developed if we can help it, make it a community park, but we're going to have to be able to maintain that once we own it. And that will be the hard question, is grants are not free. Grants come with a price tag. So we have to look closely at what we do with the money and how we're going to maintain it in the long haul. But I don't think we should take the citizens' land down there in that neighborhood who suffered for a sewer treatment plant for 30 years and then turn around and sell it off to a developer. It'd be nice to have affordable housing there, but would it really be? I mean, why don't we make it a nice park? Why don't we make it a super park? You know, for the neighbors, not necessary. I mean, it's a regional park, but if you've been to Pigeon Point Park, how nice is that, right? They've got a great park. How come Southside and Mossy Oaks can't have a nice park? I think we can do it.
I didn't realize it was $9 million. I thought it was more like $6 or $7 million that they bonded to fix the park. But I know that Southside Park for the longest time has been, you know, the neighborhood down there, particularly in Mossy Oaks, wanted to have that thing developed and make it a nice park. And I'm in favor of that. And I think part of that bond money is also going to be used in Washington Street Park as well. But depending on the bonding capability, it would have been, maybe we could have phased it in, but I'm glad that they've gone ahead and decided to do that and get that neighborhood for, like Mike said, it's a community park because it borders right on with Port Royal.
Thank you, Gail, for your questions. True professionals. Now we're going to have closing remarks. Mr. Sutton, please again, you each have about 2 minutes.
Look, it's an honor to be able to run for office in Beaufort. This is not my first time. It's not my first rodeo. Both Phil and I have both served you in council. We both believe in term limits. We both got off council after our first 8 years, after 8 years, 2 terms. I think either one of us will make a decent mayor, maybe a good mayor. We have 11 months to try to prove something to you, though. It's not a long time. Whoever wins this election has to gain your confidence to take you to the next 4 years. And election's not easy. Running these elections is very tough for filling out to jump out of our shell and be out here in the public open to you. It's counterintuitive to my whole personality to be up here talking to you like this. But it's got to be done. It's not about the who, it's about the what. The what is our city. You know, we have a lot of things we can do in our city, but we got to stop paying attention to the things that aren't as important and pay attention to things that are more important. And we can do that, but it's going to take more than 5 council members. It's going to take our community to get re-engaged in their government. And we have some great things happening in Beaufort. I mean, just the fact that we can have stormwater repair money, road repair money, park repair money, the fact that your 14,000 people are burdening the cost of that is incredible. You know, our budget is 1/3 of the county budget. $152 million in the county, $57 million in the city, population of 200,000, population of 14,000. How do we do it? We did it because we had good government in the last 15 or 20 years paying attention. So every time you hear some negative comment about what council's been doing, I want you to go do the homework. Pull out the books and read, find out how we got here. It's important to note that this did not happen overnight. And Beaufort is in great hands. It'll be in great hands with either Phil or myself, and I appreciate the evening. Thank you.
Well, I too want to thank everybody for attending and the Chamber for hosting this forum. I chose to enter this race because I care about the future of our community, and I want it to be the special place that it's always been. I want to see it remain that way for future generations. You can't go wrong with either one of us. I think most of you know who we are. You know what we're made of, and I think the city would be in great hands with either one of us. The choice is going to be who you want to lead you into the future. I'm retired. I can give it my all. I have no axe to grind. I'm doing this because I want to serve my city and my community, and I'm committed to serving all of our citizens. Not just any one individual, any group, or any neighborhood. I'm here for all of Beaufort, and I will listen. I would appreciate that your vote on December the 12th.
If you'd like to replay any and all of this, it will be available on the Chamber's Facebook page, Chamber's YouTube channel, and the County Channel's YouTube channel. So there's several ways to watch.